Hey everybody, this is Mike with On Point Preparedness. There has been a lot of stuff going on this weekend, and I held off reporting on any of it until I had a better grasp on things. But even still today, I don't necessarily have answers. But I have been talking with a lot of other YouTube bloggers, and one thing's for certain. We think something's coming and it's devastatingly close. There's just too many balls rolling to think any other way. In this video, I want to show you some new convergences and evidence to suggest that this great tribulation is going to be heralded in with some type of geological event. It's not to say that there's not a multitude of other black swan events that could happen, but I just really think that based on some of the earthquakes that have happened and the COP21 climate change summit, something geological is going to happen. Now, to begin, I want to show you 4 key dates on this Revelation timeline and marry them up with some other events that you may not have been aware of. So I want you to keep in the back of your mind April 11th, 2012, which is the beginning of the timeline, October 23rd, 24th, which was the Synod of Bishops that the Pope held, and that was the closure date, December 8th, which was the Pope's extraordinary Jubilee year for mercy and compassion, and then while it's not specified on this timeline, December 11th and 12th, which is Diatrinian Press's megathrust earthquake prediction, which did not yield any type of megathrust earthquake, but something definitely peculiar did happen, geologically speaking. I want to show that to you. So keeping those 4 dates in mind, let's look at some headlines here. So my regular subscribers will know that on April 11, 2012, there was major geological events that happened to the Earth and in the weather on the Earth on that day, the beginning of my Revelation timeline. Had 2 of the most powerful earthquakes on record that literally fractured a tectonic plate and made a new zone. This is where I say Satan was cast into the earth, and this was the earth's physical reaction to that spiritual event. Next date, October 23rd, 24th, the closure of the Synod. This was when my original prediction was when I thought Great Tribulation was going to happen, and sure as heck creeped me and a lot of my subscribers out when this event happened. Global faults fracture, earthquakes spanned 7,000 miles across the earth in one day. You literally had a chain reaction of magnitude 5.0 and greater earthquakes all in a row, all spanning 7,000 miles across the earth. Pretty incredible that happened on that day. Next date, the extraordinary Jubilee year for mercy and compassion. I was watching this video from Dutch Sense, and guess what image popped up here? He referred back to April 11th, 2012, and I was just like, you're kidding me, right? Why did he do that? Well, on December 8th, 2015, the extraordinary year for Jubilee, mercy and compassion by the Pope, you had 2 7.0, it was like a 7.5 and a 7.2 earthquake that were almost in the same longitude on the same Indonesian-Australian fault zone where the April 11, 2012 event happened. Pretty incredible. Scientists said that this zone would be highly reactive over the next coming years because of that tectonic plate fracture, but really caught my surprise when I saw that event show up in his feed on the extraordinary Jubilee. Next event. This is the December 11th and 12th prediction by Diatrinian for a megathrust earthquake. We didn't see that type of major catastrophic earthquake, but again, we had earthquakes span 6,600 miles across the West Pacific, Japan at the center. And so you can see here, just similar to what happened on October 23rd, 2015, you have multitudes of magnitude 4.0 and greater earthquakes in a chain reaction, triggering one after the other, spanning all the way across the earth. The earth is definitely moving. With regards to these major earth events that all happened in 24 hours, these chain reactions, in the October 23rd, 2015 video, Dutch Sense had this to say. Take a look at that, guys. If you've been paying attention to my earthquake updates over the last several months and years, this is something they said could never happen. That is an area over 7,000 miles all moving in one day's time. Professionals said that this could never happen. They said that literally earthquakes this size could not cause other earthquakes elsewhere. So very interesting earthquake events that happened on those 4 key dates. So how does this tie into the COP21 climate change seminar or summit? Well, take a look at this article. From The Guardian, James Hansen, father of climate change awareness, calls Paris talks a fraud. He gets into some candid language here and says, it's a fraud, really a fake, rubbing his head. It's all BS for them to say, we'll have a 2 degrees Celsius warming target and then try to do a little better every 5 years. It's just worthless words. There is no action, just promises. As long as fossil fuels appear to be the cheapest fuels out there, they will continue to be burned. I completely agree with that statement. And what many of you may not know is that this Paris climate change agreement is not a treaty. So the whole thing's not legally binding. Most of it is not legally binding. And so these countries that agree to it can still burn fossil fuels and they won't be penalized in any such manner. There are some aspects of it that are legally binding, but from what I've read, it's very loose. One of the legally binding things is that all the countries have to attend the 5-year routine meeting. Big whoop. So why do they make such a big deal about this global event, this 2-week global event where the majority of the world's countries are all getting together on climate change? Here's just a couple of the only things that I can think about. One, which I support, is that this is a Psyop operation, or this is some type of event that is conditioning. That there will be some type of geological event in the near future, and this is conditioning us to accept the fact that our world leaders are prepared for an event like that and have a plan to address it. The only other things I can think of is one, that this is just a stepping stone, and the coming 5-year cycles, they will try to institute more legally binding actions on the member agreeing states. The last theory that I have is that this has nothing to do with climate change, and that the whole seminar was completely nefarious and talked about other things. I don't think it's the latter, because there's just way too many countries and way too many people and reporters represented for this to not involve climate change. I do think all the talks were centered around climate change. However, I'm sure there's lots of draconian things tied to the actions coming out of climate change. Do I think that this is the stepping stone, the middle theory? Well, I don't think so either. I mean, anytime you talk about government and long-term dates, it's too big of a beast to be anything near functional. I mean, they're not going to be able to hold to this 5-year cycle plan and get anything meaningful out of it. Just like James Hansen said. He said this whole thing's a fraud. Even if they do the 5-year thing, it's all a fraud. So this really leads me to believe that this is some type of conditioning to the people of the world. And why do I think that? Well, we know that the Earth is definitely changing. So this was a big story, right? The hunters discover massive gash in the Earth 150 miles from Yellowstone. I mean, that is incredible. And that was a viral story. What else do we have? We have lots of sinkholes happening. We have lots of landslides. This one in Vasquez, California, we have these roads that just completely upheave themselves. We have scientists, as soon as this article loads, saying that climate change and earthquakes are related. So climate change may play a critical role in triggering certain faults in certain places where they could kill a hell of a lot of people. Professor Bill McGuire, a professor at University College London, told Newsweek. So this one from the Daily Caller News Foundation, scientists say global warming will cause deadly earthquakes. So I do think that this whole era is going to be ushered in by a geological event, likely an earthquake, and likely something to trigger a tsunami, based on my study of Revelation and Scripture. And I think that they're really conditioning us and setting up a plan for when this does happen. They'll say that they were warning us, they've been prepared, and here's what we can do to immediately address it. And now here's something that it's definitely speculatory, but I'm just wondering if this was something coded behind the scenes in all the years that they've been talking about global warming, right? They've been talking about how the oceans are going to rise by so many inches or feet or whatever, and like in this article from the Business Insider, too late, 400 cities in America, including Miami and New Orleans, They'll likely be submerged by rising sea waters. Also, this article here, new maps show world cities disappearing underwater, November 16, 2015. I'm really wondering if we have some type of geological event like a mega earthquake and it yields a mega tsunami. Was this whole, rising sea levels code or indicative of the fact that you may have mega tsunamis submerging cities underwater? I don't know, slightly speculatory, but still it is very eerie. And the fact that you had all these countries getting together in this big 2-week initiative, which per James Hansen meant nothing, at least from a legal perspective, why the heck would they be getting together? Why the heck would world leaders still be talking about this, like the Pope urging the international community to follow up on COP21, and Obama and Kerry still touting the COP21 as a great success? I mean, the COP21 thing is big because you have the false prophet, Mystery Babylon, the leader of the theological arm, and then you have the UN and all these other countries from a governmental arm coming together. And it literally looks like the one world order pieces are certainly coming together, but when you think about a one world order, you typically think about legality and governance, but this thing has no legality or governance, and so what is it? That's just my theory. I think it's conditioning. I think they're really gearing us up for some type of geological event, and there's definitely more than enough evidence by the Earth to suggest that things are changing. Heck, even the weather today, I don't necessarily buy the whole global warming climate agenda, but today it was 75 degrees Fahrenheit in DC, and it was in the mid-60s here in Ohio. Just crazy things happening both geologically and in the weather. We go from freezing cold to super hot and weird events like these. I mean, we're definitely in a very interesting time. Anyways, guys, I've got some crazy stuff to share with you for the beginning of next week. Some occult symbolism from Rihanna and her anti-diary that is just going to blow your mind. It's some of the freakiest stuff I've seen. Until then, I'll see you guys later. This is Mike with On Point Preparedness.